when the people fail to dream, they start to die. What is starting to die? You start feeling bad. And you're told, be happy. So it must be something that you can do easily. Be happy. You're choosing to be or not. So it's a good idea you choose, isn't it?
It is. You said so much that I wanted to touch on in this brief communication. I love it. First of all, you said, if you're thinking that God is withholding something from you, that's nonsense. People hear what he just said. It's nonsense. When I believed that the only thing I could have was a economy car and I could only make a certain amount of money, the universe said, God said, be it unto you according to your faith. And of course, I started making just enough to get in an economy car and enough to get by with my bills. When my vision changed and I believed, when I started operating from I am that, he said it several times throughout this talk, I am that. When you begin walking in, I am that. It's not even an option. He said, claim it. When you're making a claim, you're making a decision. Decision is to cut off every other option other than what it is that you're claiming to be. I am that. What are you claiming to be, creators? Many of you are struggling, and you keep wondering why you're struggling with the same old things, because you've never made a decision and said, I am that. And I'm not talking to verbalization, but identifying yourself with the being that you want to be and letting no other decision reside as an option. Would you agree?
That's it. That's it. There you said it. Put it out there perfectly. That is simple enough, even I understand it. And believe me, it really had to be simple for me to understand it. And that's the reason why I'm making these points so prevalent in these talks, because they are the points that I use to get out of the mire that I had made for myself. Because your world is yourself pushed out. What are you pushing out? And your word is the word of God. It is God. And that makes it perfectly suited for what you're thinking feelingly about. So you just sit and think about, what is it that I generally think about most of the time? Is it lovely and a good report? And if not, why not? Why not? Why can't you think of the things that are lovely and a good report just like you can think of all the negatives in your world? Because the lovely and a good report is just real lightly tapping on the door. See, that's all there is to it. But you have to accept it. You see, that's man's really big stepping stone, is accepting what he's asked God for. You have to accept it. I am that. And if you're not accepting it, well, then that's why you don't have it. Because God is not withholding any blessing that you can imagine. And that's what he told you. Your world is as you think you are. And if you don't like the way it's going, well, sounds to me pretty simple thing. Just change what you're thinking. I didn't say it was easy, but it sure is simple, isn't it?
Absolutely. I like in that, our beginning of the talk, we said we're going to be discussing stopping negative thinking and feeling good naturally. And he's giving you the formula. Change what you're thinking.
That's the formula that was given me. And it was hearsay when I got it. But it becomes my world when I test it. Test me now herewith and see if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. You don't even have room to receive it all. Now, and that is God's word. Do you believe it? Isn't that the question?
It is. It is the question. And you said when you first heard it, even with many of you, as you're hearing this for the first time, some of you have never heard anybody talk about what it is that we're talking about. When you first hear it, it becomes hearsay. But you know that you have it when it becomes your say. When you start telling other people the things that you've discovered and practicing these principles, it's become your say. And you've moved from hearsay to your say.
Whatever you say, your wish is granted.
Let me add your caveat on there, because you often say it with feeling. Not just verbalizing and talking off the top of your head, but when you feel that this is yours, when you own it, it becomes yours.
That's it. That's it. It's that simple. And believe me, that is really, really tough, because it's so simple that you figure, well, why isn't it working? Because you're not working it. You have mindsets that are set up on automatic to swing right into any conversation that you're having with their idea, because they've been left in charge of all of these things that they're taking care of. Their mindsets, they can be erased as quickly as they were made. But it is your say is a valid say. That's our message ever since we first started this, right?
Absolutely.
It is your say. Your say is a valid say. And you're saying your valid say, even if you're only saying it to yourself, suggesting to yourself, that's you operating in the power, because there is only one power, and that's the power you're using. And you're using it against yourself if you're thinking in negative, but you're using it in positive. The lift, self in self, and risen is the drama man. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And you mentioned God earlier. Wallace D. Wattles used to call God the thinking substance. That substance that when you sit there and you put your thoughts, your ideas, your concepts, your beliefs, then it reproduces after that which you've put into it. And God says this, draw near to me, and I'll draw near to you. Resist error or evil, and you resist error thinking by drawing near to God. And Mr. Lindell says it all the time, whatsoever things are lovely and of good report. So that's your drawing near. Whatever you're giving your attention to, that's what you're attracting or drawing near to. Would you agree?
That's it. Yes, I agree. It's your everydayness. If you start agreeing with this as your everydayness, that's exactly what it'll be, right?
Absolutely.
So you're in charge. See, if you'll test, that's how you find out you're in charge. Test me now herewith, and see if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. You don't even have room to receive it all. Now, that's you testing it. Do you believe it? And that's all there is to it. I mean, look how many things you do believe. Look at all the things around you that you believe. And you don't have anything to do with any of them. Most of it. But here it is, and you're using it. That's like the TV. I don't know what's going on behind that screen, but I don't need to. They get little buttons up in front. Oh, now they got the, the channel changer of a remote control.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, why don't you put yourself on remote control? You can do so. And actually, that's what you have done anyway. You put yourself on remote control. Your actions and reactions are according to the world you're experiencing, rather than to your thinking ahead of your evidence. Because that's where your world's coming from, you thinking ahead of it. So why not just choose something lovely to think about? If that's going to be your world, why not make it something lovely? Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. You were talking about changing your thinking and thinking your own thoughts. So many of us, we learn these principles. We're so preoccupied with trying to control someone else's thinking but we don't even have our own thinking in check.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's it. You see, in other words, you're in charge. You're making yourself in your world. You're in charge. Why not take a path that is more to your liking? It's really very simple. It's as you think you are. And you can certainly test that if you'll change your thinking for a time to see and to long enough to receive a benefit. Because the benefits, once you start receiving benefits, no one's going to have to tell you to do this. You'll do it. You'll be there. And you'll be there, and you'll be looking to find time to be there. And now is the appointed hour, right here, right now. Don't get confused about time, because time is irrelevant. It's for the play, the humanity, but shouldn't manage your world for you, because, like I said, it's always today, and you're told now's the appointed hour of change. But what changes would you make, and how would you go about making these changes? They would be your visioned idea of you being and doing and having and enjoying your ideal. And if you'll do so often, it'll soon be yours. And I'm not the one promising you that. It's God promising you that. He's telling you, pay attention, because what has your attention has your life. And if you'll pay attention to the things that you want, that'll be your life. If you're paying attention to the things you don't want, well, that'll be your life. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. You spoke earlier about the benefits. Many people think that if they start practicing these principles, they're going to have to give a lot of stuff up. That's religion. In practicing these principles, what you're going to actually do is gain more than you ever will give up. You're going to give up some old, erroneous concepts for new, empowering concepts. Would you agree?
That's why it says God laughs. He's laughing at our antics. What? We're given the path, if that's what you call it. You're given the path, and you're on the path. Well, which way are you going? You're charging forward, then charging forward gives you ideas, and those ideas will draw more ideas, and the longer you think about it, what you're doing is you're actually building a new world. As you think you are, you do, you have, you be. You have everything you need, closer than hands and feet. All the answers to all the problems you can come up with, and you can come up with some really good ones. I hear some good ones all the time. But the thing of it is, they won't let them go. I can talk to them for a whole hour, and when they leave, they still got it with them. They don't realize that it's them hanging on to it is why they seem to keep it. It's not going to be taken away from you. God gave you to choose this state, and he's backing that 100%. He's not going to interfere. He's not going to interfere with what you're doing. He gave you choose this state, and that's it. If you don't like it, choose something different. And that seems simple enough. Wouldn't you say?
I would. You asked the magic question earlier. You said, if you could change, what would you change? And that's the question for each one of us. Many times I have people reaching out to me, in various mediums and so forth, and they're upset, they're crying, they're overwhelmed by their problem. And I simply say, listen, you don't have to hold on to that. You can let it go. And they fight tooth and nail to keep the thing that they say that they want to be rid of. Do you find that that's the case for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We used to have a barrel, and it was all painted black inside. This was the one I had to haul. And then what the people were supposed to do is they passed by there, they throw the all the negative it down, and it was all painted black inside, and the way the lighting was, it looked like it went forever. And they'd pass by and do. Now I know that's a ceremony, and I don't really believe in ceremonies, but it because they tend to grow, if you know what I mean. They tend to grow, and then you have to dress funny and all of that. But the thing of it is that if the people left the hall thinking that they really threw all that garbage down that drain, well, that would be wonderful. But you know, when I leave there at night, I always have to lock the place up because they'll come back in and try to steal it. They'll come back in and get all their problems again because they'll feel lonesome. They won't have nothing to think about. I know that sounds pretty crass, but it's true, really.
It's a very powerful message that we've thrown our troubles, our cares, into a black hole,
yeah. And
we will jump into the black hole attempting to retrieve those problems.
You know, that sounds real crass to say that way, but that's really the truth.
It is the truth.
I mean, you know, really, people talk about being addicts of something. Well, they're all addicts of their problems. They have to have them. They become an addict of having problems. They don't realize it's an addiction, and you have to step outside of it, or else it'll consume you, and it does in many cases. So everybody has attitudes. If you'll sit and find out what your attitudes about whatsoever is, generally life in general, if you'll find out what your attitudes are, you'll see you're exactly in the right spot to experience those attitudes, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and I'd like to even touch back on what you said just a moment ago. We all have these addictions, but the thing is being able to identify them, and you will often say, if you're happy where you're at with your addiction, keep it.
Yeah.
But if not, let it go. Would you agree?
That's it. That's exactly the point. You know, look, let's face it, we're told straight out, they themselves are makers of themselves. And then you're told that as you think you are, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, so has he, so does he. That you keep reading the stories, that's what they tell you. They tell you that as you think, that's what your world is. And all we're here to do is, we're not trying to tell you what to think. We're telling you that as you think, right there could be all your problems. If you really want to know, all you have to do is sit and consider what we've been saying. That it's as you think you are, and you see how you think and how you suggest to yourself, then you'll see how your world is being formed and shaped in exact detail. And remember, I did say detail. I mean, it listens to your every breath thought. Every thought, every word must be accounted for. Every word. See, right there, I mean, yeah, oh God, what did I say?
Every thought, we're accountable.
Yeah, yes. We're accountable. That's for sure. All accounts are paid. Blessed is the man that does not condemn himself for that which he has allowed. You see, we're not accepting the gifts that are offered. They're already offered. When you're told that as you think you are, well, you know, can't you really think of something better than you're thinking? I mean, it's that simple. Tell them how simple it is.
It's very simple. And, you know, we can sit there and we can go back and forth and expound to you as you think you are. I think that conceptually, everybody gets that. It's practical application that becomes the boogeyman. When you have to begin living these things out and doing it and really coming to the realization, I've created this with everything that I've thought up until this moment. That's a lot of responsibility when you first begin to understand it. But then it becomes liberation when we say, okay, what kind of world do I want in my future? And we begin thinking according to the pattern of the world that we want to design or create for our future. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. And also I'd like to add this to that don't talk about it. Think about it, but don't talk about it. Because what'll happen, at least at first, until you become, as we would say, grounded in the principles that we're giving to you. You become grounded in that, then you can spread it. But until then, keep it to yourself. That's all you need. You don't need anybody else to help you or nothing. All you have to do is be still and know that I'm God. So you have that company with you if you're being still. And that's the greatest company there is. As a matter of fact, you'll steal away from anything going on in your world of experiencing to be there. Because it's where you are in mind. That's where the body is, where you were, not where you are. You can go anywhere you want, do anything you want. You can focus mind to a pinpoint, and then you can choose whatsoever. Consider that. Really consider that, and start thinking from rather than of. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. There was another man that said, don't talk about it. His name is Jesus. Somebody recently asked me, some people say that Jesus was a real person. Neville says he's not a real person. The question about Jesus, you can sit there and refute that and debate that. None of us are going to get on a time machine and see if there was a real Jesus or if it was just a personification. But the question is, you said don't talk about it. Is he real in you? Well, that's what it comes down to. Is he real in you? Is Christ's Spirit real in you? Do you understand that you and Father are one? Would you agree?
That if you agree with that, well, it's done. That's the end. In other words, we're told that in the end there's only Jesus, and that we shall be like him. Is that okay? He says, these things I do, you shall do also. And then he adds, and even greater. Well, who does greater things than the Son of God?
The Son of God, or daughter of God.
Well, our God himself.
Or God himself, absolutely.
That's what he's telling you. He's telling you who you are. He's telling you, these things I do, you shall do also, and even greater. I mean, come on. Look at here today. We're talking on a little telephone here, and how many people are going to hear us?
Thousands.
See that? And even greater. It's all about the individual being open to receive the gifts that are offered him and her and they, as you believe it is to you. And believing is not the problem you think it is, because you've been changing what you believe since you've been a little child. I mean, certainly you remember that things were difficult that got better, and then were needed to be better again and better again, because that's as you grow, you outgrow physically. But then psychologically, it's as you share this, it's shared with you. Because that's how you share it with yourself, is sharing it with someone else. And that's the reason why I help anyone who wants to do this. That's it. Do it. Do a thing, and you shall have the power. So it's right there. I really, really press this idea that you can be anything you want to be if you really want to be. It takes a passion. And if you have that, that's a go-ahead. wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And as I state each week, listen, we got those CDs out there. Mr. Lindell is truly about helping. And one of the vehicles that he's created is his 4-CD set. These are 8 talks that are combined on 4 CDs. These are meditative tapes, CDs, downloads that you listen to. And as you listen to them, you get them within your spirit. You'll begin hearing the words of Mr. Lindell. Some of these things you'll find quoted back to yourself because, of course, it'll be in you. And it's not about Mr. Lindell, the man. It's Christ speaking through him. We spoke about who is Jesus to you. Christ, God, is speaking through a vessel. And in that, you're getting tools to live this life of everydayness. What many of us will call the drama man. If you continue to listen to those CDs, you're going to have a transformation of mind because that old stuff that you have in you, you're going to start questioning it. You're not going to be able to stay the same. Transformation is the byproduct of getting new information in you, and that's what he's giving you through these tools. So go to metaphysicalarttheater.com. Again, metaphysicalarttheater.com. If you're interested in the CDs, you can get the physical CDs, and you can get the digital downloads. The digital downloads, of course, can only be published for those outside the country, but for those who are in the country, you get both the physical and the digital downloads as an option. So, again, I'm not going to stay on that point. I just want you to, he is truly in the business of helping you become everything you can be spiritually. Our goal is not to have you depend upon us and to come year after year, year after year after year. The goal ultimately is for you to become teachers of what it is that you've heard. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes, but it's not necessary. You understand? You still have choice, and you don't have to. I mean, you don't get no more extra points if you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But, see, God is no respecter of persons. So in other words, what people think of themselves really only matters to the self of that person. I mean, let's be face. Let's be truthful about it. It's only important to them. So the idea is for you to draft your own future. And you can do so word by word because the word, remember, is not only with God, the Word is God. So he's telling you that you're using the Word. And how you use the Word is how you experience life. And that's just the word you're talking to yourself. It's really the most important because you're really talking to yourself more so than you are ever talking to someone on the without. And believe me, if that changes, you change. And there it is, right there. You want to know how to change your mind, change your world. Right there it is. If you change your mind, your world automatically changes. And that is, in other words, it's on automatic. All of it is on automatic. All the praying is on automatic. He's told you how to pray. If you pray that way, it's on automatic. If you pray against that, then someone will arrest you for playing with the machine.
And then speaking of the word, your word, will always take on manifestation or become flesh. Would you agree?
That's it. In other words, be aware of what you're thinking.
Absolutely.
And more aware. And more. That's all we're talking about, isn't it? Just being more aware, paying attention, because what has your attention has your life. I mean, that seems to me makes it pretty important, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So as we're closing and we're talking about stopping negative thinking and feeling good naturally, because like you always say, everybody wants to feel good. That's why we buy new cars, new homes, why we get into relationships. The bottom line goal is feeling good. Would you agree?
That's it. That's it. And all of it's okay if you're okay with it. See, it's you. It's always you claiming you are doing, being, having what? What are you claiming? Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Well, sir, it's been a pleasure.
It always is. Because, like I said, What you share, you get more of. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later, sir.